Guys, the Hawks, even the series Tuesday night, absolutely routing the Bucks. Game 5 is going down tonight. So let's talk best bets with our NBA panel. DraftKings contributors Julian Edlow and Kenny Ducey, and Rotowire NBA editor Nick Whalen. Well, Jules, no Trae Young, no problem for the Hawks. They came up clutch with that Game 4 win without their superstar. Now back to Milwaukee for Game 5 with question marks around both Young and Giannis. So the home team getting the edge on the DK Sportsbook. They're 2-point favorites. Can the Bucks take back control of this series? What do you think?
We know so little about this game and about this series. It's getting ridiculous at this point where we have one team in the NBA Finals, where we have a 3-game series between the Giannisless Bucks and the maybe Trae Youngless Hawks to determine who goes to the finals. Look, if Trae Young doesn't play, the Bucks arguably still have the 2 best players on the floor in Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton, 2 all-star level players. And the Hawks role players, Lou Williams gave him a spark. Milwaukee wasn't ready for that. And Milwaukee arguably was on their way to come back and win that game until Giannis just completely took the air out of the game when he went down. So for me, picking games at this point is becoming pretty difficult, as we know on this segment. But if the Bucks are maybe contrarian, I'm kind of leaning towards the Bucks having the better players, being at home. The Hawks, if Young doesn't play, kind of not being able to replicate that performance on the road. And if Young does play, having a little bit of rust. He looked pretty bad coming in those last 9 minutes that he did play on the foot injury. So if they're going to put the ball in his hands for 35 minutes, I think that could cause some issues after how well they gelled in the last game. So one way or another, I'm kind of talking myself into the Bucks in this game. People forget, an MVP level player went down, but Milwaukee really does have the 2 next best players in this series outside of Young, who we have to see what he looks like.
Kenny, are you backing the Bucks?
I am not backing the Bucks. I haven't backed the Bucks pretty much all series long. I can't do it. I think that the Bucks have really difficult time scoring the basketball. And when you look at Jrue Holiday, Julian mentioned Jrue Holiday was a guy that was one of the better players on the floor. Jrue Holiday has just not been good for the last 2 games. That's the harsh truth. And when you look at the Hawks defense has been good all postseason long. So I just think that this is a team that has a very difficult time coming up with ideas on the offensive end. I don't expect Chris Middleton to be good on a nightly basis anymore. That's just not what we've seen this postseason. And the one thing we do know about this series is the Hawks have played, good defense and the Bucks have played okay defense. And so if I have to take one of the 2 offenses to kind of break that tie, it's going to be the Hawks every time, especially even without Trae Young. They still have the shooting to get it done. It's really difficult to believe in this Bucks team on a nightly basis. They've given us, guys, what has it been like? Two good halves of basketball, 2 good games. And other than that, it's just been a bunch of garbage from this team. And they have the significantly worse coach. So, no, I won't be backing the Bucks at any point the remainder of the series.
All right, Nick, what are you doing here?
I can't back the Bucks either. I think Julian's right that they do have, 2 of the 3 best players, assuming Trae Young is back at some point, remaining in the series. But Jrue Holiday has not looked like himself really throughout the entire playoffs. He's had a couple moments here and there, but on the whole, I think he's been really disappointing. And, that first half, especially of Game 4, that's the type of game where Chris Middleton reminds everyone why people can never decide if he's actually a legitimate star in this league. He'll go for 38 points. He'll have 20 and a quarter. He'll win them Game 3 and then come back with arguably his worst half of the entire playoffs when the Bucks, should have had an opportunity to be up without Trae Young in that game, probably be up 15 or 20 at halftime. Instead, they're the team that's facing a monster deficit. They have to crawl back. And obviously, once they lose Giannis, there was no chance of that happening. So I have no idea what to expect from Middleton game to game. That's where he separates himself, I think, from the truly elite wings and guards in the league who are night in, night out contributors. He's just not that guy. And like Kenny said, the Bucks have struggled with Giannis so far. I mean, they've struggled defensively. They've been an okay defensive team with arguably the most versatile defensive player in the league. You take him away, and not only are you losing a 2-time MVP, but you don't really have any great options behind him. Like the thing with Atlanta, you could lose Trae Young for a game. You have Lou Williams who can step up, and he played his best game of the playoffs in Game 4. You have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who obviously has been banged up, but played really well in game 4. Cam Reddish gave them decent minutes. Chris Dunn even gave them some decent minutes. Like, the Bucks have no options beyond the 7 guys that they've already been playing. You take away the best and most versatile of those guys, I don't even know what the solution is. Like, is it 30 plus minutes of Pat Connaughton? Is it 30 plus minutes of Bobby Portis? Like, the Bucks have like 5 guys at the end of the bench who are never going to play. They're all basically like fringe second rounders. They're just not a very deep team. And especially when you take away Giannis, that becomes, extremely exacerbated.
All right, guys. Well, after combining for just 198 points in game 4, the total for game 5 is 215. Is that too high with Young and Giannis both dealing with injuries? Are you going to favor the under here?
I think Julian brought up a good point at the top where he mentioned that if Trae Young plays in this game, I don't think it's necessarily bad for the Hawks, but there is a chance that, they lose some of the free flowiness that we saw in game 4. I mean, that ball was moving around, guys who typically are doing a lot of standing and watching while Trae Young initiates the offense were the ones who were attacking and getting more shots, and everything kind of flowed a little bit better. And I think if Trae Young comes back and if he's limited, if he doesn't shoot the ball well, I'm not saying that's going to sink the Atlanta Hawks and they can't win this game, but it might bog down the offense a little bit. So that's a concern for me. And then I think we've pretty clearly laid out all the concerns for Milwaukee. I mean, the one argument you have is that maybe removing Giannis gives you the ability to throw 5 shooters out there. But that's going to create a lot of other issues, especially on the defensive end with no Giannis. And the biggest thing is those guys have to hit shots. Like, Pat Connaughton is good for missing 3 to 4 wide open threes in the corner every single game. Bobby Portis, same thing. Jrue Holiday, extremely hot and cold. Same story with Chris Middleton. Like, you can have 5 quote unquote shooters out there, but at the end of the day, they have to knock down the shots. And the Bucks are shooting 31% from 3 as a team in the playoffs. Like, that is absolutely horrific. Like, teams that shoot that poorly typically aren't even making it all the way to the East Finals.
Yeah, Jules, are you with the guys on this one?
I am. I think Kenny summed it up best at the end by saying playing the under here is probably better than picking a side in this game. Both of these guys like the Hawks, but I guess are more interested in fading the Bucks than actually betting on the Hawks. I lean to the Bucks. The point is, we don't know. Everything is up in the air with who's going to play in this game, how they're going to look in this game. And what that all boils down to is these teams kind of struggling. So I think that the under is the better play. If you're going to play any total side, anything in this game, I would look to the under. The only thing that concerns me is if Milwaukee does in game 5 what Atlanta did in game 6. If Giannis being off the floor hurts the defense a little bit, and the unit that they have out there does get hot shooting at home, which the numbers have been against this postseason, but it can certainly happen. But yeah, like for Atlanta, I don't see how they necessarily come out hot in this game, because if it's them without Trae Young again, I don't think they can replicate that game 4 performance. And if it's them with Trae Young, like Nick said, maybe it's not a bad thing for the Hawks to have, if this game is close, Young can hit some shots in the clutch, but like, I don't think he's going to be himself for the majority of the game and put up 35, 40 points and threaten this over. So yeah, it's just tough to see in this grinded out series with both teams so dinged up. And remember, Capella's dealing with stuff as well. Like, it's tough to say that this game is going to be a track meet with a lot of good shot making and find its way over.
All right, so Trae Young misses game 4. Likely won't know if he plays until later, but Bojan Bogdanovic rebounded with a nice game to help the Hawks win game 4. He's got a point prop of 15.5 for game 5. Nick, can he get there?
I think he can get there. It's all about health, though, right? I mean, I think if that knee is progressing and it feels better than it did even 2 or 3 games ago, then he absolutely can get there. I mean, he went over on 15 points at one point this season in 23 of 26 games. After the All-Star break and even leading into the first round against the Knicks. So it's really just been the knee for Bogdanovic. It's not like he's playing poorly. He's just clearly been limited. And he certainly looked a lot healthier in game 4. Although some of those shots came in like what was basically like third quarter garbage time. Like right after Giannis went out, Bogdanovic hit a couple of shots and boosted that scoring total a little bit. But without Trae Young, he was extremely aggressive. And I think this might be worth the play just, on the off chance, or maybe even not even off chance, maybe like 50-50 chance that Trae Young misses this game, because if that's the case, then I think we see that version of a much more aggressive Bogdanovic. And even if Trae Young plays and that knee's feeling better, I think he has a chance to hit the over. So, I'm a little bit on the fence because of Trae's status, but as of now, I would lean over on that.
Would you lean over, Jules?
I can't lean anything until we know who's playing in this game. Like I will not touch a prop until we get an official injury report. And obviously we expect Giannis to be out. So when we go ahead and talk about the Bucks after this, I'll operate under that assumption. But with the Hawks, I think Trae Young is legitimately questionable. He couldn't go in the last game. I'm sure he really wanted to, and he's going to be pushing to play in this game. So I will not bet a Hawks prop until we know Trae Young's status. If he's out, yes, definitely lean to the overs on Bogdanovic. It's a little, you can talk yourself into both sides here. The good news is in the last two games, we've really seen his minutes go up back to his normal, amount, 35, 33. So he was unable to even go the minutes before. So it's just the volume alone is helpful for an over. 3 of 16 in game 3. So he was getting his shots up. The knee wasn't there yet. He couldn't get him to go in. A little bit better in game 4, 7 of 19. So you like the volume. It goes down a little more. 6 of 14 from 3. That's great for playing overs. The other thing is, like, if I'm only going to play the over and I'm only going to play it if Trae Young's out, then I'm just going to do the points, rebounds, and assists at 21.5, because with Young off the floor, Bogdanovic plays a lot of that point guard role. He had 5 assists in that last game, 3 rebounds. So if we're going just 6 higher and we're going to include points and rebounds, I'll wait for Trae Young to be ruled out. And if that's the case, play the over on Bogdanovic, which I also think is worth doing on Kevin Huerter, who had a really good game in the last one as well, a well-rounded game with assists and rebounds. So both of those guys on the 3-way props are where I would go if Young is out.
All right, guys, for the Bucks, Giannis left game 4 with a hyperextended left knee. Whether or not Giannis plays, Milwaukee is obviously going to need Chris Middleton to step up after shooting just 6 for 17 in game 4. His point total for game 5 is set at 27.5. Jules, will he go over? I know you're saying, like, you don't want to touch any of these till you know who's playing, but just tell me what you would do.
I think the safer assumption in this game is that Giannis is out. He's doubtful. And, as miraculous as it is that there's no structural damage in his knee, we all saw the way that bent, and playing 48 hours later seems rather unlikely. So Middleton's props are really boosted up. Holiday's props are really boosted up. I'm not telling you to take the over, but I can't bring myself to bet them. The best bets for the Bucks, I'm hoping we're waiting on official Giannis status to get these out, because we've been offering Bobby Portis props throughout this series, and they're not up on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, but I'm holding out hope, and we'll be complaining to the Sportsbook Ops team later to please get Bobby Portis props up, because it is a Bobby Portis spot 100%. He's hit the over on his points, rebounds, assists in all 4 games so far this series. It keeps creeping up. It was 13.5 last game. He got there by the hook, but he shot 3 of 9 from the field, his worst. But here's all you need to know. 9 games this season without Giannis. Bobby Portis is averaging over 27 minutes, 15.7 points, 10.9 rebounds, 2 assists. He's averaging a double-double in 9 games without Giannis. And really just about doubling what his points, rebounds, assists prop has been set at this series. So will it get boosted? Yes. Is it going to be boosted high enough? No. So when that Bobby Portis prop comes out, that is the one and only thing I want to play for the Bucks, and I want to play it pretty big.
All right, Nick, what's your take on Chris Middleton? Is he going to, go over that point total, 27.5?
I think he can. And I think Julian's right that there's a much better chance that Giannis doesn't play in this game versus Trae Young. Like, Trae seems like a true 50-50, maybe even leaning toward playing. Whereas I think this Giannis situation is more similar to Kawhi in the last round, where he was like doubtful going into every game, but like wasn't even traveling with the team. So we kind of knew he wasn't going to be ruled out. I think that status is a little bit more of gamesmanship by Milwaukee, but I think Chris Middleton can get there just on volume. Giannis's like 20 shots per game are going to go somewhere. And Chris Middleton is probably the number one guy along with Jrue Holiday, who's going to inherit those. Pretty much everyone else, whether you're talking Portis, Connaughton, some of the bench players that they might have to dip into, Brook Lopez, like those guys are not creators. Like they get their shots from Middleton and Holiday passing to them, whereas Holiday and Middleton, kind of have the agency to take those shots themselves. So I don't think Chris Middleton is going to come out and have a massive game. I think the Hawks are going to be able to key in on him. I've already said at the top that I'm a little bit down on Chris Middleton stock right now, but I think he's going to take a ton of shots. And I think if he puts up like 31 field goal attempts in this game, even if he only hits 11 or 12 of those, gets to the line 5 or 6 times, hits 3 or 4 threes, that's probably enough to push this just over.
All right, finally, if you're playing DFS tonight, who's your captain for the showdown contest, Nick?
Well, I'm going to go against basically what I just said and go Chris Middleton because of the supplementary stats that he provides. I think it's going to be, and one thing I should mention, when you're talking DraftKings, you're not worried about efficiency. Like, there's no minus for, having a 35% night from the field. Like, I think he's going to take a ton of shots. He's probably not going to play all that efficiently, but he's going to rack up points. He's going to rack up his usual rebounds. He's going to have the ball in his hands a little more often with Giannis out. Maybe that leads to 1 or 2 more assists. I just don't really trust anyone individually on the Atlanta side of this.
All right, Jules, who are you going to captain?
Yeah, it's hard not to say Middleton. His props are boosted, inflated, so that's why I'm not as convinced there. His salary in Showdown is up $400, so it's not like you're paying the Giannis premium being out. So there is value there. So Middleton's the easy answer. If you want to be a little contrarian, though, I'll stick to my guns here. Bobby Portis, and then you can stack some more stars in the flex. I don't mind captaining Bobby Portis. I think he's going to see a lot more minutes, a lot more production in this game.